Part 5. Breaking the Looking Glass. Chapter 37. In spring of 2009, I had no job, was $5,000 in debt, and owed 3 months in back rent. I had an eviction notice, a shut-off notice for utilities, no driver's license, no car, a credit score of 347, and 3 children. And the sun was shining. In May, I found a job as a debt collector. It was the dirtiest job I have ever worked. It was a job that allowed my children to have a place to live. I contacted everyone who I owed money to and made arrangements to catch up. On the second day of training, I fell on the steps going to my car and landed on my leg. I cracked my femur. The impact slit my skin, and within an hour, I had one of the largest bruises. Okay, bruises is an understatement. My leg turned black. 18 inches by 10 inches of black on my left thigh. Hosea picked me up off the ground and told me to go to the hospital. Second day on a new job with rent and electric waiting on that first paycheck. Screw the hospital. I went to work. I iced the wound eventually and worked through it. Granted, I couldn't walk, but my job required I sit in a chair anyway, so I was fine. I welcomed pain. Remember? That wound would take 2 years to heal, but not completely. To this day, it bothers me. 4 weeks later, I had a paycheck and began paying on the $5,000 I owed plus the back payments. 2 weeks after that, I went down to social services and was approved for a $1,000 loan. I threw it onto my electric bill and began making $25 payments. 2 weeks after that, Hosea and I went to the bank and he co-signed on a personal loan of $4,000. I paid off all my debt, used my paychecks to catch up, and by August, I was keeping on top of my bills and was paying on my bank loan. I was 29 years old. Autumn was fast approaching. I was financially stable and in a loving, secure relationship. The lifestyle was everything I needed for everything to go wrong. Why would it go wrong? William asked. You had made it. Did I? I asked. Yes, I suppose I did. Why would there be problems? William asked. Because I had dragons sleeping within, I said. Dragons I didn't know were there. And nothing awakens a sleeping dragon more like happiness and all things good. The programming Scott had conditioned into me was still there. I hadn't accessed it in 7 years. It was dormant. Richard and I had enabled my fear of men by secluding me. In turn, I also developed a fear of people, of leaving my home. Richard was right to be worried. I cannot be around men. He called me a heroine. He called me heroine, and he was right. He didn't know why. He didn't understand, nor did I. He saw firsthand how men responded to me. They love me hard and fast. They go mad with desire, and they're there, caught in my voodoo before they realize it happened. Voodoo. That's what Penelope calls it. Richard knew that if I were around men, I would break down. I still had a fear of men, and my fear still triggered a desire to soothe them, to sedate them by any means necessary so they don't hurt me. All of this lay in waiting for that spring of 2009 when I returned to the workforce. At first, I kept my distance and remained shy while I went through my training. I was a single mother of 3 children with food and shelter on the line. I busted my ass at that job. After the 4 weeks of training, I was moved out to the call center and was seated beside a man named Reggie. Reggie was a 6'2" black man, and I was convinced he was going to rape me right then and there. I didn't think that was an unusual thought to have. I was terrified, so I smiled. I flirted. I do what I do. He smiled back and fell for me hard, and I relaxed, knowing I was safe because he liked me. I moved on to the next one. Toby. Toby was wonderfully lively, 10 years younger than me, kind of dim, sweet as heather in summer, and reminded me so much of a little boy. He was my height, was the happiest, jolliest. Toby was jolly, the friendliest. He posed the least threat, and so I flirted with him the least. Matt was Toby's counterpart. The Beavis to his butthead, the Bill to his Ted. He was taller than me, flirtatious, and developed a sexual interest in me. We flirted. He smiled. I tamed him. I was safe without having to put out. Jason was a gentleman, mature in a committed relationship with a wonderful woman, and was kind and gentle. He posed no threat. Jason was the music giver. It was Jason who introduced me to music beyond Beethoven. Through Jason, I learned of bands people like Metallica, Mumford & Sons. Jason spoke my language with a strange dialect. Music. Music who I had long since abandoned. Music who I had once made love to every day for hours while I played and composed. Music who loved me first, who knew me, who soothed me, and who I gave up and turned my heart off when I lost my Hosea. Where's the music? What? I asked Hosea. He looked around the silent apartment. It's you, he said. I've been visiting you for 6 months now, and there's no music. I remembered. I had thrown it all away those years ago when I closed the lid of my piano and walked away. Music had been the largest line that tethered me to my pain, and the first of the lines I killed to ease the hurt. I still had my boxes sealed away in the room with Angel. I never thought of that. She was still there, still screaming, and I could no longer hear. I still felt little to nothing. I didn't have that luxury. I needed to focus on work and my children. I didn't have time for music. Love was the only emotion I permitted myself. All others were locked away, forgotten where they belonged. I tried to find the words to explain. I gave it up. He looked at me in horror. You gave it up? He shook his head with a look of disgust. Why would you do that? Because... How do I explain the hurt I had? How do I explain how much music forced me to feel? It's you, he said. I felt my locks on my boxes breaking. I couldn't let them out. I couldn't feel. You need music, he said. It's all you are. It's you. You gave up the thing that made you you. You couldn't hold me, I wanted to say to him. I had to turn my heart into stone. I had to become so cold that I could breathe. I couldn't do that when music reminded me. He wouldn't understand. I tried to explain. It was coming back. The boxes were breaking. I don't have a piano anymore. I argued as if that clinched it. And it was true, I didn't. So your compositions, he asked? Your singing, your piano? The boxes were breaking. It was getting harder to focus. I was forcing down too much. I shut it all down, I said. It hurt too much. I shut down the music so that I may live. But it's you! I shrugged. I could see Angel holding her head on the floor and rocking. I haven't listened to music, I said. I haven't sung a note or played since you left. He looked at me in disbelief. I remember that day. I remembered the music, and oh, how I ached to play. I missed music. I missed Eric. I missed it all. I missed Puccini and Beethoven. The loneliness, the emptiness, the hurt, the emotions, the memories of that day, the nightmares. Angel's screams reached me, and I fell to the floor screaming. He was right. My music had been my solace, and I lived without it for 10 years. It had kept me chained to the hurt. Tribble was there within moments, purring and nudging my head with her velvet nose as I hugged myself on the floor. I scooped her into my arms and I held her. I sobbed into her fur while she purred and snuggled my face, and I cried. Over the purrs and my sobbing, Angel screamed. I heard Hosea's keys rattle and the front door close as I sat on the floor crying into Tribble. He left me. I buried my face into Tribble's coat and wept. 2 hours later, Hosea returned. He had an 88-key Steinway electric performance-level portable piano with weighted keys. My piano. I named her Abigail.